Time trouble. When I was 9, I came to an arrangement with a grandfather clock. It was disastrous. Never trust a clock. Believe me, I know. I'll tell you about it. I was in the hall of our house, all by myself, except for the clock. I'd just come in from school. The clock said 4:10, and I said out loud, because I was fed up and cross as two sticks, "Oh, I'd give anything to have this afternoon all over again."
"Would you now?"
said a voice.
"That's interesting."
But there was no one there, I swear. Mum was out shopping, and my brother Brian was off playing with his mate down the road. The voice came from the clock. I looked it in the eye, and it looked back, the way they do. Well, they've got faces, haven't they? Faces look.
"I deal in time, as it happens,"
the clock went on.
"Had some bad time, have you?"
Funny stuff, time. I mean, it can be good or bad, and you're always being told not to lose it, and we all spend it, and some of us kill it. You can have overtime and half-time and summertime and the time of your life. And there's always next time, and my time's my own, and so is yours. I nodded.
"Sometimes,"
said the clock,
"I can lend a hand."
It twitched 1 from 11 minutes past 4 to 12 minutes past.
"Tell me all, then."
So I told. About how at dinner I was in a bad mood because of having a fight with Brian, and when Mum kept going on at me about something, I kept thinking, "Oh, shut up!" Only unfortunately what was meant to be a think got said out loud accidentally, so then Mum was in a very bad mood indeed with me, and I got no pudding. And then on the way back to school, Brian and I had another fight, and my new pencil case got kicked into a puddle and all dirtied over. And we were late, and Mrs. Harris told us off. And then I answered back accidentally, and so she sent me to the headmaster, and he told me off even more. And then I had to stay in at break. And Martin Chalmers nicked my rubber, so I had to keep asking for it back. So Mrs. Harris told me off again, and I had to go to the end of the classroom and sit by myself. And on the way home, I got hold of Martin Chalmers, and we had an argument resulting in me falling over and my pocket money dropping out of my pocket and 10p getting lost.
"That's tough,"
said the clock.
"I see what you mean. Well, here's a deal. You have this afternoon back, and I'll have next Wednesday."
Next Wednesday?
"Next Wednesday. Your next Wednesday afternoon."
But I don't know yet what's going to happen next Wednesday, I objected.
"Quite,"
said the clock.
"It's a risk. Well, take it or leave it."
I thought, what's one Wednesday afternoon out of all the Wednesday afternoons you've got? I mean, on the whole, one Wednesday afternoon's much like another. "OK," I said, "and I have this one again?" The clock made its whirring noise for 4:15.
"That's right, my lad. See if you can make a better job of it."
And you're not going to believe this. There I was at dinner all over again, in a bad mood just like before, only this time when Mum started going on at me, I didn't say anything. I just sat. And then somehow, accidentally, my leg shot out and it kicked Brian, and Brian yelled and his milk got spilled and Mum got in a proper temper. And not only did I get no pudding, but I got no seconds either. And on the way back to school, I thought, right. And when Brian started trying to trip me up, I didn't trip back, but I started running on ahead. And a paving stone got in my way, and I fell over, and my new pencil case went into the road, and a car went over it, and all the pencils were broken, and the biro with 6 colours was bent, so it wouldn't work anymore. And we were late, and I didn't answer Mrs. Harris back, but I kept trying to explain, only she called it interrupting, and the headmaster came in and heard, and I had to stay in at break and help tidy up the infant class as a punishment, and Brian and Martin Chalmers kept looking in at the window and making faces, and I made faces back. And I got on one of the desks to see out better and put dirty footmarks on it. And Mrs. Harris came in, so I had to spend all afternoon at the end of the classroom by myself. And when the bell went, I rushed off before Martin Chalmers came out, and I was so fed up I went into the corner shop for a Twix. And you're not going to believe this. My money had all gone out of my pocket. 28p from last Saturday. It must have dropped out when I fell over before. There I was, in the hall again, with the clock, furious. I said, It was worse. I want the first one back again. That way at least I'd have my money and the pencils and the biro with the 6 colours,
No way,
said the clock.
a deal's a deal.
And it just stood there, ticking. And that was all it did for the next 5 days. I wondered what would happen when it came to Wednesday. And what happened was this. Brian and I came home from school for dinner, just as usual. We ate it, just as usual. Mum said, "Off you go, boys," just as usual. We started getting on our anoraks. The phone rang. The clock struck 1. Mum said, "Wonder who that is," and she went to answer the phone. And the next thing I knew, the clock was striking 7, and I was in the kitchen again, looking at a plate of supper that I didn't want. I felt a bit sick. I said, "I feel a bit sick." "I'm not surprised," said Mum. "You shouldn't have had the peach Melba bomb as well as the vanilla with chocolate sauce," said Brian. I looked at him. "Caw," he went on, in a sort of contented, reflective voice. "Weren't the jumbo beef burgers smashing?" I didn't say a word. An awful, suspicious feeling began to creep over me. Brian was talking about something else now. "Remember the bit where all the spaceships all started crashing into each other? That was fantastic. And when all the robots came out of the volcano?" Mum had gone out of the back door for something. I thought hard. I said, cautiously, "What sort of an afternoon was it, would you say?" "What sort of an afternoon?" cried Brian. "It was just amazing. Well, you were there, you dope. I mean, it's not just any old afternoon that Uncle Jim suddenly rings up and says he's over this way and he'd like to take us out, and he talks Mum into letting us miss school, and he comes in his new sports car with the roof all the way down. Well, you were there. Hey, remember the bit in the cartoon where they all fell over the cliff?" I swallowed. "Yeah, sure." After a moment, I said, "It was Space Victory, wasn't it, the film?" He stared at me. "Course it was Space Victory, idiot. Space Victory, what we've been wanting to see for years. Remember the bit when..." "Course," I snarled through clenched teeth. I went on, wishing I wasn't. "What's that place called? The Wimpy Bar, is it?" "Wimpy Bar?" cried Brian. "Some Wimpy Bar? That was the Plaza Steakhouse, you nut. Hey, bet you haven't ever had 3 helpings of chips before." I groaned. I wished he'd shut up, but I went on listening. "And beef burgers, and bacon rolls, and Coca-Cola, and 3 different kinds of ice cream, and crisps, and milkshakes. Actually," he said, pushing his plate to one side, "I think I feel a bit sick too. I'll just think about it all. Remember the bit when..." I went out into the hall, banging the door. I stood in front of the clock. "Did you know?" I demanded.
What's that?"
Said the clock, bland as you like. "Did you know that it wouldn't just be an ordinary school afternoon? Did you know Uncle Jim would come over and Space Victory 3 helpings of chips?" I spluttered. I couldn't go on. The clock ticked away, evasive.
"I said it would be a risk, didn't I? Funny stuff, time. Doesn't always do to mess about with it."
"It was your idea," I said, sulkily.
"Look,"
said the clock.
"I was just going about my normal business, dealing in time. If you don't like what's in the paper, you don't complain to the newsagent, do you?"
I glared at it.
"I just keep track of it, right? See it's moving along at the proper rate, all that kind of thing. One bit's the same as another, as far as I'm concerned. The quality, that's your problem. Doesn't interest me."
I said, "I want my Wednesday afternoon back." The clock considered.
That would be a new arrangement. Different deal altogether. Let's see now. How about next December the 25th?
"Christmas Day?" I yelled.
Suit yourself."
If a clock can be said to shrug, it did so. I thought about Space Victory and Uncle Jim's sports car with the roof down, and 3 different kinds of ice cream. I mean, the whole point about having a good time is that it's good when you have it, and it's still good when you remember it. And I couldn't remember any of this. I'd had it and not known about it then, and I still didn't know about it. I thought about next Christmas. Half the point of good things that are going to come is that you know you've still got them coming. No, the clock was not going to get Christmas. Tomorrow morning? I offered. After all, an ordinary old Thursday morning.
Oh, I've got loads of those,
said the clock. I thought you said it was all the same to you, I said craftily.
Cheeky,
snapped the clock.
You watch out or I'll stop, and then when will you be?
I didn't know the answer to that, so I said nothing.
Tell you what, I'll be generous. I'll just have the time you waste. Now that you'll never miss.
I thought, I bet there's a snag somewhere. I didn't trust that clock an inch now. And after a moment I said, OK, but just for next week.
You're so sharp you'll cut yourself. A month.
2 weeks. The clock whirred.
All right then. Done. Off you go. Have fun.
And it struck 1, and there I was in the kitchen, and the phone was ringing, and Mum saying, "Wonder who that is?" And Uncle Jim came, and he took us off in the sports car with the roof down, and we went to Space Victory and then to the Plaza Steakhouse, and I had 2 jumbo beef burgers and 3 helpings of chips and 3 different kinds of ice cream and Coca-Cola and... well, it was all exactly like I knew it was going to be. Oh yes, it was pretty good. I mean, it was fantastic in a way, but the edge had kind of gone off it. It wasn't nearly as fantastic as it ought to have been. Half the point of a good time is not knowing what's coming next. So Space Victory wasn't amazing as I thought it was going to be. And the beef burgers, well, they were all right, but not much more. And I kept thinking it wasn't as good as it was supposed to be. And that made it worse. And I was stuck with the deal. I bet you're wondering about that. So was I. I mean, who's to say whether you're wasting time or not? Mothers and teachers have one idea about wasting time. People like me have another. Fact is, if you're anything like me, you probably do quite a lot of smooching around doing nothing in particular, sort of waiting for something to happen. I suppose you could call that wasting time, if you insisted. Well, the clock evidently did. It was the worst 2 weeks I've ever had. I'm telling you. Every time I stopped doing something, such as eating a meal or having a bath or doing maths or walking to school or getting dressed, everything just went blank. And there I'd be again in the middle of the next thing. It was like being in a speeded up film. It was all go. There was never a moment's peace. I was exhausted. There I'd be, cleaning my teeth, and I'd dawdle a bit and try out a few faces in the bathroom mirror, and then wham! I'd find myself downstairs and out of the front door and on the way to school. Or I'd stop in the middle of a sum to have a bit of a think. And the think, well, it would begin to get sort of vague and wondery. You know, the way they do. And whoosh! There I'd be, sweating again at the sum, and the bell would be going for break. I didn't know if I was coming or going. The only thing to be said for it was that the days went by double quick. Suddenly, the 2 weeks were over, and everything slowed up and went back to normal. Goodness, what a relief. The first thing I did was go into the hall and stand in front of the clock and do absolutely nothing for 5 whole minutes on purpose. I'd have gone on longer just to annoy it, except that I was getting bored. I started to go upstairs.
All right,
said the clock.
You've made your point.
I glared at the clock, and the clock looked back. Blank. No, not blank. Smug.
Look,
it said.
Maybe I could interest you in a personal arrangement. Just you and me. Might be fun. How about you?
No! I shouted.